Good evening, and welcome to the 16th, yes, the 16th episode of Highbury Matters. Tonight, we'll be with my friend Steve Kay from the Transfer Exchange. We'll be looking at the 1994-5 and 1995-6 seasons. Steve and me have been on a few pods together over the years, not recently, but over the years, and I'm looking forward to this one. Hold on a minute, I think I can hear the teams coming out. So let's go. Evening, Steve. How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, mate? It's a pleasure to be here, mate. Thanks for having me on.
It's been a long time since we've done a pod together. So,
it is, mate. Very long and perfect timing. Perfect timing, really, isn't it? You know, we couldn't be more happy at the moment. So, perfect timing. You know, but yeah, it's good to be here, mate.
Like I say to most of my guests, you don't get a 5-minute warm up here, Steve. You've got to go straight into it, mate. You've got to kick off straight away. So our first question to you is, when did you first start supporting the Arsenal? And not so much at the moment, we ask ourselves, but why?
Why I started supporting the Arsenal? Well, I've supported Arsenal now as long as I can remember. There's not a time in my life where I don't remember supporting Arsenal. I think I was 5 years old when I first got my Arsenal shirt. It was my dad who first took me to my first game when I think I must have been about 7 years old, and just ever since then, just non-stop, just addicted to Arsenal Football Club. Sometimes it's been great. Most of the time it's been great. Sometimes not so great. But I think overall it's been an absolute joy to support this football club. And I mean, looking at some of those, especially in the introductions to the show, and seeing the stadium, and the memories start flooding back because there was nothing like going over Highbury. But it was a family thing. It was my dad, and my uncle took my dad when in the 50s, and it's just filtered it all its way down through to my kids. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my grandson at the moment. He seems to be wanting to support West Ham, so I have to work on that. We can't have that one. But I just can always. Highbury is where my main memories are, and where the stories are. When
you was like, you started at 7, but around about 7, 8, 9, whenever, who was your first hero as such? Wear that red shirt.
Oh, I mean, looking back, I think I can remember my first shirt I had. I can't remember if these players were around then, because at that age, I can't even remember the actual team. As you say, so young. But my first actual Arsenal heroes was people like George Armstrong. He was probably the reason why I've played football all my life, and I've always been like a winger. And it was Geordie Armstrong who I sort of he was the one who sort of I wanted to be. He was the player I wanted to be every week when I was playing in the park, or where I was playing, out in the streets, in the garden. I was George Armstrong, and my whole life of playing football, I was a winger. So it was Geordie Armstrong. It was players like, John Radford was someone as well who I loved and have been lucky enough to meet as well on a couple of occasions. One quite recently actually, and one when I was very young, and I was able to have quite a nice conversation with him. But in those early days, it was those people. I had a little thing about Peter Storey because he just lived round the corner for me. He owned a pub, and I think my dad used to sit me outside with a bottle of lemonade. I was never allowed in there. But the fact I think it was called the Jolly Farmers was the name.
It's
One
not
of the
Enfield,
memories.
is it? Is that Enfield?
Sorry,
Is that in Enfield?
no. Jolly Farmers was in Islington. It
Oh, I
was
got one
in
round the corner to me.
it was I think the name of the road was it was in Essex Road.
Right.
And we lived sort of in the next street. So the fact that Pete Story, this Arsenal, an actual Arsenal player, had a pub in the next street was like, at that age, you're like, wow. Even standing outside with a bottle of lemonade, that was enough. And every now and then you'd get a glimpse of him when he wasn't playing or saying you'd be in there and, sort of, when you're seeing one of your heroes at that age, it's like it's a massive moment. And that was similar with John Rafford. I think when I went to my first ever Arsenal game and I actually met my hero when I was about 7 years old at my very first Arsenal game, and it was just coincidence, which is mad. So, yeah.
Do you remember what game that was, Steve?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was a reserve match actually, Melvyn. It was a reserve game. My dad took me to because I was only small. I suppose he felt that was the best way to, because they keep away from the crowds and all that. Taking it was a football combination back in those days, wasn't it?
Oh, the old football combination. Cool, you're going back.
Yeah, it just shows you, mate. I'm not as young as all you people. I'm not as young as I look. I'm older than I look. But I remember we was going up the stairs, going to our seat. You can obviously imagine someone 7-year-old going to his first game. I remember my dad taking me in there and just seeing this cathedral, and just going stone cold and just standing there and just thinking, wow, what is this? And that's the moment. I think it just takes you in, doesn't it? And
I've been there, Steve. So many people have been there in that moment. It just feeling. You said cathedral. I've said so many times on this pod. It's like a place of worship where you go to have your prayers answered, not to pray, but to have your prayers answered. And that's basically what it was for me.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And it was one of those things, especially with as I got older. When they say football's a time when you're having hard times, or you're down, or you're fed up, or you've had going Highbury, all your cares just went away. And for me, there was something, and I suppose a lot of fans say it about their club, but for me, there was something about Arsenal fans that just seemed different. I've been clubs, grand stadiums all over the country, and I don't get that feeling, that you get when I go to Highbury. It's not that love or something. But yeah, I mean, look, just going back to the game, I actually come out and we got a nod. My dad said, "Where's your program?" And I actually dropped it on the floor, and he said, "If your program's gonna pick it up," he said, "Look who's over there." And I looked over, and I see John Radford. He was talking to a few people, and my dad went, "Come and let's go over, let's talk to him." And I was like, "No," and I burst into tears, and I started crying my eyes out, and I was going, "No, I can't," because I was just like, I can't go over to talk to that man. That's John Radford. He ain't going to talk to me. But my dad sort of took me over, and I was standing there waiting to talk to him, and I burst into tears. I was just crying my eyes out in front of him, and he was talking to me, and he was such a lovely guy. And I had my photo done with him, and and I'll never forget it. And he's obviously given me an autograph, and it's one of those memories that you'll never forget. And he's a player to this day that will always go down as one of my Arsenal heroes. And apart from all that, what a player he was! Incredible player.
Oh, terrific! Absolutely. And also, I mean, the Highbury for me. I mean, walking in there, it had a aura of its own. Highbury, walking up those big solid stairs, those concrete stairs.
Yeah.
Feeling, and also what you say is so true. If I was having a bad time at work, a bad week, oh my God, I've got bad. This has gone wrong, and that's going to go wrong tomorrow probably. Then I thought, you know what? Come Saturday, I'm going to Highbury. Don't worry about it.
It takes it all away, doesn't it?
And that's my little, if you like, place I can go to, and that is where I'll be okay. I can chill out, enjoy myself. All right, we might get beat 3-0, which we probably did in the early days, but for me, that was where I wanted to be. It was my place to go, my go-to place. Absolutely.
And that
agree.
started first thing in the morning. I don't know about you, Melvyn, but as soon as you used to wake up on the match day and you knew you was going, you used to start looking to everything, even like getting ready, what you put on. You wore your Arsenal shirt once a week, and you used to get ready. It was like you was putting your uniform on, getting on the bus. You knew what you was going to do. You'd go in the Arsenal cafe and have something to eat, or you go to the burger van outside, or the chip shop on the corner of Avenel Road there. And this was all part of it. It was all the same, and it was just, and then you went, as you say, you go into the ground, and there's nothing like Highbury. I've never known. You could turn around and say you're biased, it's your ground, but there's even fans of other clubs say, how many times have you heard them say that Highbury is their famous ground? It's the best ground that they've ever been. There's just something. Even footballers, even players, they will turn around and say, Highbury, love playing there. The atmosphere, the tight pitch. I don't think there was anything ever like it. An incredible place. And again, without repeating myself, just incredible memories, mate.
Going through the amount of times you went to Highbury, Steve, there were one or two games that really stick out. Like, my God, what a game that was. Try not to do the seasons we're covering because I'm going to come to that, but any season, any games that you just go, wow, I remember going to that. For whatever reason, you might all of a sudden remember a game that sticks out.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's most of the. I mean, the Invincible season mostly sort of comes to mind. I mean, I never missed the game at the Invincible season. There was the game with. I see all the great goals that you can see there. Do you remember the Omri goal where he chipped Bartes? The moment when Bergkamp the game against Juventus. When we played Juventus there.
That's when Vieira played for them, didn't he?
That's right, yeah. And do you remember that little bit of skill that Bergkamp done when he done that little flick and turn around and he moved and he played it through to Lundberg, flicks it over. You don't see that. You don't see that. And again, you may know Melvyn because we've been on pods many times together. To me, Dennis Bergkamp is the greatest player I've ever seen live, and that goes for anybody on the planet. He was something special, and for me to actually, be able to see him at his best at Arsenal for his whole career, again, just I'm blessed, just lucky person. And again, one of the games that really stands out was one of the ones I first took my son, and I think it was the same season. And I thought, let's go to a nice easy one. Let's go to a nice easy ground, a nice easy team. We'll win the game. I mean, we was the invincible team, so I think no problems here. And we was wiping teams away. And I think after about 35 minutes, we was losing 3-0 to Middlesbrough. And my son's crying his eyes out. And I'm like, oh my word, I can't, of all the games I've had to pick. And, I think we got one goal back in just before half time. And then, I should have had more trust in the boys because we went on to win 5-3. And it turned out to be okay in the end. That was another one, but just so many. There was a game at Tottenham as well, where we was, I think I don't know if you remember this game where it was tight towards the end of the season, and we needed to win every game, and we was playing Tottenham at Highbury, and we won 2-1. And I think Sheringham got a penalty in the last few minutes and made it 1-1. And it sort of really could have put a dent in, finish our title hopes. And then right in the injury time, I think it got a penalty.
We got a penalty, didn't we?
We got a penalty. But Lauren stepped up. Lauren, and I'm like,
wow.
What is he doing?
Wow.
What is he doing? Lauren stepped up, and I mean, I just couldn't watch. And he scored. We won 2-1, and we went on to win the title.
That was the North Bank end, wasn't it, Steve? North Bank end he scored.
That was it. It was.
I can vividly see myself sitting there and looking like that, going, God, please. Yeah, I want this one to win, please score.
Yeah. And the fact that when Sheringham scored that equaliser, it was like he used to give it the old celebration, didn't he? Because he hated Arsenal fans, and I think Arsenal fans hated him. So there couldn't have been a worse player to absolutely stop us from winning the title than Teddy Sheringham at home to Spurs. So when Lauren scored that goal, and I tell you what as well, I don't know if you remember, Melvyn, it was the worst penalty you've ever seen in your life. He just took it and it just
down the middle,
rolled.
wasn't it? Was it down the middle?
Yeah, it was like he just passed it in the net, and it was like, what's he doing? But who cares? It went in.
We'll take it. We'll have it. We'll have that one.
We'll take it. And there was a few bad ones. There was the game against Chelsea when they beat us in the Champions League that year.
Was horrible, Steve. That was horrible that night.
Yeah, I really thought we was going to win that. Was it Lampard who scored? I can't. It may have been
the left
Lampard.
back scored the winner. Bridge.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Bridge. Yeah, that was.
We won that game as well. We'd drawn the away leg. We won, and we were 1-0 up in the home leg.
Yeah.
And it was just, we've done that so many times, especially in Europe, and messed it up.
Yeah,
I think we would have won the European Cup that year, the Champions League rather that year.
We had a great side. We had a really great side. And I think we had to move. I think because even though I had a season ticket then, when for Champions League games, we had to move. They moved us somewhere else because they had to.
Where did you sit, Steve, when you had a season ticket at Highbury?
I was East Upper, literally.
Yes, so was I. What block?
Oh, I don't know.
E and F. I think the East.
E.
I was.
I think it was. ABT. It could have been that. I was literally. I'll tell you where I was. If you look in the centre circle and you look down the centre circle, I was literally. That's the centre circle. I was like to the right towards the north bank, just slightly there.
Well, you would probably be E because F was the last one, and I was D.
Yeah. And then right, just.
You must be near the front.
No, I was just a little bit up. I mean, I think
they take the European games if you sit near the front.
Oh yeah, no, but I had to move from there. I wasn't allowed to sit. We wasn't allowed to sit there in the Champions League finals. In games. They had to. They used to put like dignitaries there from other clubs, or they used to put other people in our seats, which I wasn't too like because that was my seat. So they moved us to other parts of the ground, and they moved me to the actual somewhere in the North Bank to watch that when we played Chelsea. So, but I was East Upper, literally more or less dead centre, but slightly to the right, and then you had the director's box, didn't you? Literally right by the side of me there. Just if I looked, there was the director's box. So
we sat between you and the director's box. That's where we sat on the block D. So that was
I know exactly what you mean. But there's been some great atmospheres. But it was just quickly. I mean, I always remember there was the point when I first started to go on my own to football matches, maybe about 10 or 12, maybe when, I was allowed to. And I always remember I used to leave about 11 o'clock in the morning. you used to be.
Where did you live, Edinburgh?
Sorry?
Where did you live, Edinburgh?
No, this is what I'm saying. I used to but the buzz of me going, I wanted to get, put it this way, it was when the doors opened, I wanted to go in. So I would stand, at the time where I never had a season ticket, I would stand in the North Bank and just stand there and wait for it to start. Because I just to be in the ground, just to stand there and just at 12 years old, just to look around. And I used to go right in the middle of the ground on my own, probably one of the first ones in there, and just get right behind the goal, above it. So I've got like a good view and lean on the bar. They used to get me
barrier,
on the barriers. Yeah. But if we used to score, I used to end up up there somewhere because I was.
That's right. Yeah.
So because everyone used to go mad and score, and I never ended up there, and I always ended up. So why I used to go early, I would have thought you would have learnt by now. If it was no point, but again, why you did that. But I think it was another thing, like we used to say, you just couldn't wait to get there. It was just a special place.
Also, it was special on a Saturday afternoon, and it was also how special was it on an evening game with those floodlights, those special floodlights.
Yeah, I mean, it was
any other club's floodlights.
Yeah. No, it was, wasn't it? It just had this. It's just different, wasn't it? It had this aura about it, And as you said, like, evening matches under the lights at Highbury, standing there most of the time in the freezing cold. But you just you could, people think. My dad always used to say, "You'll smell it. You'll go in there and you'll smell the atmosphere, and then when you'll come out, it will be different." And I never used to know what he meant by that. I was like, "What are you talking about? Smell it?" But it was all. I know what he meant. I know what he
Yeah.
meant. When you went in there, you felt different. Things smelt different. You acted different. Things that happened during the day had just gone away. And looking under those lights, and some of the games were incredible games under the lights. It was just different. It was different from any other ground. There's no grounds like that now. It's a shame. Probably the closest you look into it is probably Goodison Park, which is getting knocked down soon. They're moving. Yeah, I know football's moved on, but
Well, hasn't it moved on? But football's really moved on. I mean, when we used to go, Steve, I know that I'm a bit older than you, so I went earlier than you, but you might have seen the change. When I used to go, there was hardly any women that went to football.
Yeah.
There was hardly any women at all. It was a male-dominated sport. And very, very few women went to football. In fact, I don't know how many toilets. I remember one season there was a complaint when women started to go a bit more. The toilet facilities weren't good enough. There wasn't enough of them. That's like what it was like. Also, was you around when the halftime scores used to be on the corner flag?
Yeah, yeah. Again, that was special, wasn't it? It was something that it was no other ground, and there was something like, I mean, I was a football absolute nut. I think I didn't just have an Arsenal kit when I was a kid. I had like about 20 different kits, and I used to go home and make league tables and just ridiculous things. I used to tape Arsenal matches on the radio, when I was a little, and just listen
on the radio.
I used to get, the old cassette recorders?
Yeah, of course. I know how you tape them. You did the radio recording.
Yeah, and you used to have a little mic.
Yes,
yeah, you used to plug it in. I used to get the thing, and then there used to be like whoever, right? Used to Arsenal commentary. And do you know what I remember, Matt? I can remember, and this is going back, and this might tell people. I remember Sunderland and Arsenal in the FA Cup.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do you remember?
I went to that game. That was 70. Was that 72?
Yeah, so it must have been about 3, something like that. I don't know. No, maybe 5 or something. I can't. Yeah, it must have been. But I can literally remember that was my first ever football memory of listening back to that commentary again and again and again and again.
Why put yourself through it? We got beat.
I know. But when you were a kid, but it was just like, I used to just love to hear the players' names. I used to just love to hear that they were saying Arsenal, because that was the closest I would ever get to go at that point.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the only game. There was other games. It's just that particular memory for some reason. But that's what I used to do. And then I used to do what I used to do during the day, and then I used to come back at where one of the things I would do. People used to do their other things, and kids had their other hobbies and whatever. But I was just a football nut. And one of the things I would come home was just that would be one of them. Going to my tape recorder and clicking and listening back to Arsenal commentaries. Mad.
I came from, as people who know me know, that I came from a very strong Arsenal family. My mother didn't like football at all, but my father was big football. But my uncle, who lived with us, he was the reason I became an Arsenal supporter, and he was staunch Arsenal. You couldn't say anything bad about the Arsenal at all. He was like, that was it. Come from the East End, you don't, big Arsenal. You don't say nothing about the Arsenal, whoever you were. Yeah. He used to, on a Saturday he played away. We used to live near a station, and he used to send me up the road after the game's finished. If we won away from home, I had to buy 2 papers, an Evening News and Evening Standard, because he had the match report in. If we drew, he sent me up the road to get, and it wasn't long, it's only a 2-minute walk, to get 1 paper. If we got beat, I didn't buy any. That's what it was like. No, it was. That was what it was like. That's what and he used to drive us. He lived with us, and he used to drive us to the Arsenal. And I used to be with. He was my uncle and my father, and then there'd be another uncle might get in the car at a certain part of the journey, and then a couple of cousins. Well, one particular cousin used to come as well. And there might be a second cousin or his mate. It's like the car was like this. You know what I mean? And they would all get out, park the car literally round the corner, because you couldn't park on Avenel Road, but you could park off of Avenel Road as a couple of.
That was another thing, wasn't it? The parking there was atrocious.
Yeah. Well, at least you could park round there, though. You know what I mean? There was no restrictions. You couldn't park on Avenel Road because there was the police with their horses there. You know, because it didn't make sense for people walking. But just off that, there was a couple of roads where you could park, and used to flick a half-crown at me uncles who got out of the car to buy 4 or 5 programs, which is about 2.5p a program it used to cost. But it was really like you. It was like the memories. It's just, and it wasn't just. Sometimes when you look back on something, you really think, "Oh, that is fantastic," and at the time you don't think anything of it. But going to Highbury, for me, at the time I enjoyed it. I knew it was special, and obviously I appreciate it now as well, if not more so. Right now, Steve, what we're going to do now is talk about we'll highlight a couple of seasons. An eventful season. This is much more went on, I think, off the pitch with us than went on the pitch. It's the 1994-5 season. Now then, this is what happened. I didn't. Yeah,
you could have to remind me.
No, I didn't know myself some of this until I looked it up. That season we came 12th. George Graham was our manager. Evidently, that was our lowest league position since 1976. That's a bad.
12th. Can you imagine 12th now, Mel? Finishing 12th.
No, but 76. You know, I thought we might have come 12th in the 80s or something, but obviously not. We were 38 points behind the champions, who were Blackburn. Ian Wright was our top goal scorer. He scored 30 all in. He got 18 in the league. Now, listen to these attendances, Steve. Right, and remember, it was standing then. All right, the grounds weren't as big then as they are now, but they were standing and get a lot more in, retrospectively, of the size of the ground, right? Man United had the highest attendance, average attendance, was 43,500. We had 35. You know what Spurs got? Their highest, their average
20,
attendance. 27.
Yeah.
Chelsea, the mighty Chelsea, 21.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they finished 12th this season, though, weren't they, Chelsea?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And this is the season off the pitch. Is the season that I think it might have been around December, but you probably might remember. I don't. I think it was around then, because I think they banned him for a month or so. Paul Merson admitted to cocaine and drinking and betting.
Yeah.
That was a bombshell, wasn't it? That was an absolute bombshell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this also that season. It's when we talk about it in a minute. That was George Graham's last season as Arsenal manager. We'll talk about that in a minute. We talk about a couple of games. Right. This is the one that I went to. We reached the European Cup Winners' Cup final for the second time in Paris. It was. We played Zaragoza, Real Zaragoza. That was a name from the halfway line, as we remember. Apart from anything else, it was horrible, the game. The police kept us in the ground. I think it was the police. They locked the doors until the other team did the going round with the cup. Why do they keep the Arsenal fans in the ground for that? Then when we got outside, they took us away from the metro where the station was. So we had to go all the way around. And as we were walking, and we're not in a great mood, none of us obviously, someone actually told me, "What do you think of that Spurs player scoring the winner?" I didn't realise it was naive from it. My seat was crap.
No.
That was an absolute. And then we parked the car in Paris, and the garage car park we parked it in was locked. We had to knock someone up to get it out. It was a nightmare, mate. Absolute nightmare.
This was that. What was the that was in the, because I went to the Cup Winners' Cup final in the Parc de France as well.
That's where it was, yeah.
Was that what was the final score in that?
2-1. 2-1.
I was there. Look, I was there.
Yeah,
I'm
horrible.
there.
Horrible.
I was there, and we come out. I don't remember. I don't remember. Um, I don't remember being. Can't remember being locked in, but I do remember staying in for. We had to stay in for a while. I do remember that.
They locked us in, Steve.
That's right.
You
Yeah,
stayed in
and
for a reason. You couldn't get out.
yeah, I can remember. I mean, the actual build up to that game was unreal because I stayed in an hotel that looked over the square, and it was just full of Arsenal fans through the whole day, and that was probably the fun part. Um, but yeah, I remember coming out, and the first thing that hit me when we come out the ground, if you remember, was just lines of dogs and police.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they marched us away from the metro.
And they marched us away, and they were just like going up there. And I've had this a lot of the times with police in French for other reasons. But they do it all the time. But yeah, look, Melv, I was there that day. Was it Paul Vaston with the header? Was that the one where he scored with the head?
No,
I'm
that was
trying to
the
think who
semi
scored it. Oh no! It was
final.
John Hartson. John Hartson,
Yeah.
weren't it?
Right. You mentioned John Hartson because we weren't doing very well that season. We were in a mess, absolute mess. And near the end, near the end of the season, it was, what was it? Would it be March time? I think it was thinking about March. We played Forest at home. We just bought 3 players in the same week. Chris Kawambi, do you remember him?
Yeah, Ipswich Town. Yeah.
Glenn, no, it was Ipswich, bought him from Ipswich, Glenn.
Yeah, Ipswich, yeah.
Yeah. Glenn Helder, Dutch winger.
Yeah.
And John Hartson, who you just mentioned. Now, all those 3 have played less than 100 appearances combined for the Arsenal.
Yeah.
They were panic buyers, weren't
they? They was, mate. I don't remember too much about
February.
Yeah.
I think we bought them in February because about that time, I think it was the 21st of February is when Arsenal sacked George Graham and Stuart Houston.
Stuart Houston came in,
and first game, on that same day, we played Forest and won 1-0. And Kwon scored. And that was Glenn Helder's first game, as I recall. And he played like unbelievable. I thought we got one here. But he never did it again. Never.
It was an awful season, wasn't it, Melvyn, that season? I mean, absolute disaster.
We got beaten the 3rd round of the FA Cup by Millwall at home. We drew away, and at home I think they got an early goal. We were battering them, and then they got a goal near the end from a very good player called Mark Kennedy, who was terrific. He scored. I think he scored. I think he picked up the ball on the halfway line. We were attacking, and just ran at us. We couldn't catch him. Make it 2-0 near the end, and he finished up going to Liverpool. He was a terrific player. Mark Kennedy, very, very good.
I used to like Glenn Helder because he was a winger, wasn't he? He used to play right-sided winger. And there was days when he was on his game where he was like, sometimes he was unplayable.
Yeah, very fast as well. Very fast. Yeah. But those days didn't come around too often, though, did they?
No, this is it. I think 80% of the times he was like dog's awful, really bad. But again, there was times when he was like you couldn't stop him. And again, like I've spoken to Glenn over the recently. Just during like the woodwork I'm doing at the moment, and he's a nice enough guy.
Does he live over here?
No, I think he lives in Holland. I'm sure he lives in Holland. But yeah, he was a good player. He had. Do you know who he reminded me of? He was a bit like David Bentley, where he had so much ability, but he just never showed it. He was similar to that. But you're right, they was awful panic buys. They was terrible season. Then you had the George Graham thing, and then I can remember like who's going to come in for George Graham, and I can remember thinking, oh, we got Stuart Houston. What's he going to do? Like type of thing.
He took over till the end of the season. He started off the first game he took over. The game was that game, Forest. We won 1-0. Then after that, we lost 6 out of 7 games, and we were really in trouble for going. We could have gone down.
Yeah.
However, we took 8 points from the final 5 games to secure our position in the Premier League. So that was that season. So we want to get away from that actually.
Yeah. We had Jimmy Carter. Do you remember Jimmy Carter?
I do remember Jimmy Carter. Yeah.
What do you think of Jimmy Carter?
Thank you very. Can we move on, please? Put it this way: he wasn't a success. That's why I'll leave that with you. He wasn't, and yet he played for Liverpool.
Yeah.
So it just go, what happened there? We bought him from Liverpool, didn't we? I think he went from Millwall to Liverpool.
That's right. Liverpool, yeah.
So anyway, that was amazing. That was. Now then, we reached. Let's go to next season, 95-6. Look at the attendances there. United again with the top, 41,500. We used to have an average of 37.5. It's getting a bit. Attendance is going up a bit. Spurs was 30,500. Chelsea 25.5. But there was 5 teams in the Premiership, Steve, whose average attendance was under 20,000. Average.
Oh, that's mad, isn't it?
The lowest one was Wimbledon, had an average crowd of 13,000 people. we finished fifth. We rallied a bit. We finished 5th, 19 points behind Man United. Righty did well. He got 23 goals for us. Again, he did well. 15 in the league. But that didn't actually help. I mean, basically, what I should say, start from the start of this season, we had Bruce Rioch join us in June. Yeah. And Bruce Rioch, as you know, Ian Wright didn't get on, although Wright did terrific for us. He was a one-man forward line. As you know, the manager never got on. But in the FA Cup, Sheffield United beat us. I think we drew away. No, we drew away. I think no, we drew at home, got beat away, and then we played the semi-final of the League Cup. We played Sheffield United, Aston Villa. I think the first game was at home. They did what they needed to do, and they only needed to draw 0-0 because away goals, I think, counted, and they just were defensive at home, and they got through in the final. So that might be the year they beat Man United in the final. Anyway, going back, Bruce Rioch was appointed manager in June. He was known because he was quite successful, very successful with Bolton Wanderers, and they beat us in the cup before as well. So we knew about him and the type of football his teams played. But we signed Platt and Burkham. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, that's enough. Give him a statue now. Give him a statue now. That's enough. Bruce Rioch, give him a statue at the Emirates.
Yeah, I don't think you get one of those. I think I might have more chance. Anyway, and then Bruce Rioch sold Kevin Campbell pre-season. Stefan Schwartz was sold. Paul Davis went. I think might have been on a free at Brentford, and Alan Smith had to retire because of a knee injury. But he was only in charge. Oh, Steve, you've gone. What I said. Well, let's read this while wait for Steve to come back. Oh, sorry. Let's go that way. Hi, Steve.
Yeah, I was here. Yeah, I was in the background, like waving.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I don't know.
What's Mark got to say here? Hold on.
I think that was Bruce Rioch. Throwing me out of the.
Yeah, he heard what you said about it.
Yeah.
What's Mark say? He said, "Mark, running a hard task, taking over from George. Never going to be an easy task." I think you're right, Mark. But what I heard, I don't think that he went about it the right way. He kept talking down to him. He was telling the Arsenal players they weren't as good as the Bolton players. So that wasn't going to really make the Arsenal players fight for him, was it? I think it was that or something else. I'm sure they would have listened to him. I mean, why shouldn't they listen to him if he was that right type of player? I mean, let's face it, they listened to George, they listened to Arsene. So why shouldn't they listen to him? As I say, it was because he kept telling them how all the other players Bolton players were much better than they were.
Did we get into the Champions League with him though, Melv? Did he take it on the last day of the season? Was it?
What he did, Steve, he took us into the Cup Winners. Was it Cup Winners Cup? I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
remember. I was there, mate. I was there.
What was fifth of Gibbons then?
Bergkamp scored against. I think it was Bolton.
It was Bolton. We were 1-0 down after 82 minutes. Then Platt got a goal, and then Bergkamp scored a wonder goal.
That's
He
right.
smashed it into the net from the edge of the just inside the area. I think he might.
That's it. I was there. Yeah.
Great.
Mm.
Well, that put us in. I should know that. I'm sure someone might tell us. But is anyone the UEFA Cup? There we are. I thought so. UEFA Cup. Of course it was.
UEFA Cup.
I knew it wasn't the Champions League.
Yeah.
That's
big,
Richard telling us. All right, Richard. I thought you
it was a big goal.
Very big. A wonder goal as well. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, he scored a few of them, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean he was.
Oh.
But to talk about some other games, Steve. Obviously, after 7 games, on the 7th game, all the press and all the experts, close brackets, were telling us that Bergkamp is no good. What's he doing in our league? Absolutely no. They would have said probably something like he was clueless in Seattle. I mean, he wasn't, mate. I mean, on the 23rd of September, we played Southampton at home. He hadn't scored a goal.
Oh.
Everyone's knocking him. Then all of a sudden, Glenn held the ball. I've got the ball down the wing, cut it back, and Bergkamp just.
Oh, mate. Do you know what? You know when you were saying about moments, like at the beginning of the show, and you're talking about games. As I've already said, Dennis Bergkamp is my hero to this day. You know, I think if I met him now, I think I'd be like a teenager. You know,
You're not going to cry again, are you, Steve?
No, but I think I'll tell you what. I think I would if I met him now. I think I'd like to be. He means that much to me. Yeah. But that game against Southampton, because I remember the quotes and what people were going. I remember it was actually it was Stuart Pearce. Stuart Pearce come out and said, "What a waste of money, this guy."
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah,
it was Stuart. I mean, I remember this to this day, and every time I see Stuart Pearce, it's the first thing that comes into my head. And those 2 goals, 2 fantastic goals against Southampton, I get goose pimples now just thinking about it.
What about the second one, Steve? How good was the second one?
Oh,
veered right, veered left, veered right, smacked it. That was I saw Bergkamp play live for the first time when England played Holland at Wembley. I don't go to any internationals. For some reason, somebody might have had a ticket or something, and I thought, I'll go. And we drew 2-2 with Holland. I think England was 2-0 up. And funnily enough, I think Overmars got the penalty for the equaliser for the Dutch. But I see him, the ball come over his shoulder, and he chipped Seaman. As it came over, it was like one. I knew he was a good player anyway. Don't get me wrong. I knew of Bergkamp. I see him play for Holland on the TV and all that. But when I see him chip, I went, wow, what a touch. It was like a glove, wasn't it, his foot? It just pinged. Yeah. And when he signed him, I thought, nah, can't be. It must be his brother we're signing. He did take us to another level, Bergkamp, let's face it.
Mate, I can't speak. There's no words that I don't think that I can speak highly enough of that man. He's the greatest footballer I've ever seen play live. I can't. He did things on the football pitch that I don't see now people do, and I can honestly say that quite comfortably. And even I got goose pimples. Sorry,
Loki was there for that game as well with us. He was there.
What, the Southampton game?
No, this guy here, the guy in the comment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you'll remember then. I mean, it was probably, if I can pick one game out now that I would put as my top game, it would be that, because it was the game that really sort of turned around and said, stick that one up here, for all the doubters type of thing, because we all knew what he was. I mean, he hadn't played bad. Everybody was just saying, "Oh, he ain't scored a goal. He hasn't scored yet. He ain't scored yet." He went about 7-8 games, but in those games, he was still playing absolutely really well.
You knew it was a matter of time. It's not when, it was if, wasn't it? No, sorry, it wasn't if, it was when.
Yeah, and that was it then, wasn't it? And then it just took off.
Absolutely right. Now then. What also happened at the end of that season, though we did a lot better than we did the season before with Rioch, it really improved the team. Those undercurrents weren't looking good. There was Ian Wright. It's known that he put his transfer request in. It's either Rioch or me. There was a lot of that going on between.
Yeah.
I could imagine he would have put a few of the other Arsenal players' noses out of joint. Anyway, in that summer '96, when the season we just qualified for the UEFA Cup, David Dean and Rio clashed about the transfers. Basically the management team the directors wanted to take more control over transfers after what happened the season before, with George Graham.
Mm-hmm.
So him and Rioch and Dean had a bit of a argument. Well, Rioch was never going to win that one. He wasn't going to win the righty one, and he wasn't going to win the David Dean one. So basically, Arsenal let him go. They sacked him, and he was 431 days in charge of Arsenal as a proper manager, not temporary. And that's the shortest spell any Arsenal manager has been in charge of the Arsenal. And you got to go back to a guy called William Elcoe, who was the Arsenal manager between 1898 and 1889. So that is going some. That's a bit of a record.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I wonder if he brought in Bergkamp. Do you think Dean brought in Bergkamp, Mel?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I was told by somebody who was quite close to the club, and I believe it, that he was quite good, Rioch, at local players in the UK. He had no knowledge of foreign players, and Arsenal were looking at that time to cast their net wider. That wasn't the only reason they got rid of him. It was the right situation. It was him saying that I want to do the transfers. And I suppose he thought getting Arsenal into Europe, he deserved a little bit more, but they were looking at the bigger picture, Arsenal, I believe, at the time. And that's why that happened. So there we go. And it happened, I mean, who would have said, who would have come in, eh? Who would have known that? That we would have got who we got.
Yeah. So I think Platt as well, probably Dean and all.
Well, of course, he was in Italy, wasn't he? Like Bergkamp.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now then, let's go cast our mind back to those years and do a bit of visual here, Steve. First game of the season, we played at home to Manchester City. That's what it used to. We were sponsored by JVC, as you can tell on the programme on the shirt. That's Stefan Schwartz.
Cool, yeah, I remember him. Yeah, very gifted.
He's shown I think that might be like a Makita Cup or something.
Wow, yeah.
A cup like pre-season. That was that. And this. Do you remember any of those players, Steve? Man City ones as well.
Tony Coton, yeah, with the man with the moustache.
Was he Watford as well?
What was Watford? Yeah, Nicky Summerby was.
I met his father. Remember his father, Mike Summerby?
Yeah, Mike Summerby.
Did I tell the story with me and him, Mike Summerby?
No. Go on, mate.
When I was working in the city years and years ago, Mike Summerby had his own shirt making business. So he come up. So someone knew him in the office, and he came up and he goes, and someone said, Mike Summerby's in the office. He does make to measure shirts. Who wants to make to measure shirt? So I put my hand up. I thought that'd be nice. So anyway, a few of the dealers lined up. Guy went in the office, measured him all up, put the arms out. Anyway, come to my turn. And he goes, right, lad, I put my arms out. He's measuring my neck, measuring my waist and all that. Must have had a big tape measure anyway. Waist, like that. He goes, right, lad. He goes, what would you like? I said, I like a red shirt, please, with white sleeves. And he goes, you can F right off. But he didn't say the word F. Brilliant. Anyway, that's what else is in. Who else is here? Who else we got here?
Who we got there? Keith Curl. Yeah, I remember Keith Curl.
Yeah, he was Wimbledon as well, wasn't
he? Yeah. Michael Vonk. Mitchell Vonk. The name rings a bell, but I can't.
He was Dutch. He was a Dutch centre half.
Ian Brightwell. He was one of
Spurs.
Oh, yeah. I hate to say it, but he was a good player.
Very good. He played for Liverpool and Luton as well. And you had Terry Phelan. He played for Wimbledon as well.
Yeah, Peter Beagrie was the wing. Was he a winger? I think he played.
Winger Everton. He played. He used to do somersaults when he scored.
That's it. We know Niall. We know Big Niall. We do know Big
course,
Niall.
sorry. And
Arsenal
Uwe Rosler.
German, weren't he? He was the German player, wasn't he? Rosler. He
I
was
think
good
he
as well.
managed Brentford.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he did.
And no, I think you mentioned, and I think he got sent off against us once as well.
Yeah. Because see Eddie McGoldrick there. God, that's a blast from the past.
Oh, Eddie, there's only, oh my God, Eddie McGoldrick. Oh, it goes back a few.
Dear
I keep
me.
forgetting how many years this goes back. These players, you just remember Eddie McGoldrick or Steve Morrow. Remember? Oh, yeah, because he was in the cup winning teams, wasn't he?
Yeah. Next to his mate Tony Adams.
Oh, yeah. But that's amazing. All that just goes back and back. Like, can I escape that? Good.
Johnny Jensen.
Johnny. Well,
Mr. One Goal.
That goal against, I think it's in the 4-5 season, was it? Yeah, that
QPR, was it against QPR?
Goal
I
against
think I was there.
QPR. He put us 1-0 up and we still got beat. Only goal he ever scored. We bought him in 92, and that was the only goal he ever scored for us.
Yeah, it was a cracking goal, though, wasn't it?
There we go. Now
this. Live off that.
Now this, if you can see, I'll tell you why I've shown you this, Steve. It shows you what the price of tickets was then. It was £23 was the top seat. That's the middle blocks, C, D, W, and X. See that? North Bank was £11. That's not 11 quid to sit.
What? Oh, wow.
And they're advertising to sell the tickets, Steve. It's not sold out. They're advertising in the programme. That's what it is. And a lot of away tickets. You can't get a ticket now for a pension to watch your
How things have changed, eh?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that's why I had that. I thought I'd show you that.
That's amazing.
The boys watching this on that. Watching this.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, by the way. Do appreciate it. What else we got here? What else have we got here? I've saved a few others. Yeah, adverts. I showed this the other week as well. Adverts are right in the programme, Steve. What's a shocking advert?
What's that? Carling?
Yeah, it's black and white. They sponsored the league, right? Not only is it black and white, it's got Ryan Giggs up there. Who wants to talk about Ryan Giggs in an Arsenal programme? We're not playing United.
Can you imagine that now?
That's what I'm saying. You would never get it. And it's black. Look at that. Oh, it's shocking. I've got a couple of other adverts to show you. This is the JVC one. I mean, that's
Could you save his shit up from him?
I mean, it's like, I'm sure the people that did it were very good at that time, but how it's advanced, the whole idea about. I mean, it's so that doesn't look top flight, top.
No.
Like for what you
I could have it. I could do better than that now.
This is what I saw, and it shocked me. Right, this is what was in the program. Remember, we just beat Palmer in the final the year before, right?
Yeah. 89 quid.
Wow, Steve, isn't it?
£89.
It wouldn't cost that now, would it?
No, I think you're probably right. That does seem a lot. 90 quid.
I don't think you'd get anywhere near that now.
Yeah. I wonder what that's worth now then. I think someone's got one of them somewhere.
It's probably worth 30 quid now. Good nick.
Yeah.
What else we got there? Oh, no. Oops. Let's have a look. No, I think that's what we're going to go for. Now then, let's get back to the comments. What we got here? We've got a few comments more comments coming through. Disco pants.
No. Yeah. Good bloke, Niall. I like Niall.
Yeah. He was a good player. I'm not sure I don't know. I didn't know he didn't sell. I mean, I liked it. He's a good footballer.
Very technical gifted, weren't he? Very technical gifted footballer.
Yeah. John Jensen, Boxing Day. Yeah. God, dear me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Clock in the 10. Was that clock in the 10? You're right. It was about 10 clock in.
Yeah.
It just shows you how things change.
Yeah. You can't get a burger at the Emirates now for a tenner.
No, that's the deposit, mate, for a burger.
Yeah. They're quite rough and all.
How long was Emery manager for? Was it over a year though, wasn't it? It was nearly 2 years, was Was he our manager between 1 and 2 years?
About 18 months, weren't it?
Yeah,
Something like
I
that.
suppose
I
it
think
must
it
be
was.
quite short. I suppose it is
Yeah,
quite short.
yeah.
That's Richard. Thanks, Richard, for that. No, but I think what happened was us lot didn't realise what was going on inside the club. All these stories came out after Bruce Rioch left. All of a sudden, it all came out what was going on. So that's why I didn't know. Hate is a very strong word, and I don't hate Rioch. He was just one of those things that happened. He just didn't click. It's listen.
Yeah.
That every team has it. There's not a team that doesn't have it. You cannot name a team in the Premiership that hasn't had loads of managers that haven't worked. And that is life. That is the life of a football manager. That is the life of a football club. And when you get a good one, appreciate it. That's what I say.
I think they probably would have brought him in, probably because I was, looking at someone off the back of George Graham, and they were probably thinking, well, who's similar? We'll get someone like George.
Scottish, disciplinarian,
yeah,
successful in a low division.
Yeah,
you're right. There was definite parallels there, Steve.
There was, weren't there?
But I think the difference was, in my opinion, what would do it for me was George Graham was an Arsenal man.
Yeah.
And he understood what Arsenal was and what respect the club deserved. And I don't think perhaps Bruce Rioch showed the club, or the players for that matter, the respect that they deserved. Perhaps he was coming in and he was the man.
I think you're right, mate. And I think football was just changing then, wasn't it? Football was just changing at that time as well. It was just going into the foreign players were starting to come over. You say we had Bergkamp come in, and others, just after that. And I think if we would have kept with Rioch, we probably may have not been the team we are today, because then obviously Arsenal come in. So
yeah. Now, I want to tell you some things about in 1995, Steve, right? You'll think that, of course, only those few years ago, you think, no, that happened well before then. You would remember a few of these things. I'll put my glasses on because that's what has to happen nowadays. Baring Brothers, the bank collapses. You remember that with Nick Leeson?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Made a film about that, didn't they? Life story.
Film. Yeah.
He broke the bank, basically. Billions, he broke the bank.
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson was found innocent. With his wife.
God, was that long ago? That seems only like yesterday or a few years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You think, wow. In the US, there was a US budget deadlock. I remember this. The federal workers were sent home when there's no more money to pay the workers during a budget deadlock. The Dow Jones Index, Wall Street, closed above 5,000 for the first time. Tonight, or this week, it's been 35,000. The Major League Basketball players ended a 232-day strike.
Wow.
That is a proper strike, isn't it, Steve, for that amount of time?
Oh, that is a strike, yeah. Yeah. Also, what the fuck basketballers going on strike? I mean, everybody's going on strike over here at the minute. Be vets and everything.
Baseball, yeah. 232 days. God, dear.
Madness.
I'll talk about the technology, what was going on then. Windows 95 was released. I suppose the clue's in the name. But Windows 95.
Yeah.
JavaScript was introduced. And eBay started then as well, 95, doing the online auction.
Wow. Yeah. I bet a few people were selling their Palmer and Arsenal pictures.
God. I'll tell you, now the popular culture, like films and all that, and groups, American rock band Grateful Dead. I wasn't really a Grateful Dead fan, but they announced their breaking. Popular films there, Steve. Popular films. Apollo 13.
Great film.
Batman Forever.
Tom Hanks. Oh, yeah, another good film, yeah.
Hey, I thought this was only a couple of years ago. This is one that's got me. Toy Story, first ever wholly computer-generated film was released. I thought it was like in the 2000s.
I would have said it was in there, the 2000s as well.
Yeah. GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And Braveheart.
Oh, yeah, what a film that. Great film. Seen that many a time.
Yeah, it's good film. Popular musician, sorry, Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they first come out here, Steve. That's when they were really like good. Top of
their
form.
in their pomp, like
Yeah. Whitney Houston, what a singer that! Oh, terrific.
Yeah, great voice, lovely voice. Yeah.
Madonna was around big time then.
She's still around now. She's still going.
So they say. Garth Brooks. She's not as big now. She was enormous, wasn't she? She was so amazing.
Yeah.
And so, do you know who our Prime Minister was then, Steve?
Oh, I doubt it. Let me have a guess. 1995. Blair?
No,
Brian?
it was just before him. No,
Brian?
before him. John Major.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Bill Clinton was the USA president. Mandela was South African, and Yeltsin was the Russian. So that took us back 94, 5, 6. Some amazing time, memories. Some good in that, even that short period of time, Steve. 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Very troubling times. Worried that we might go down. But let's face it, the year before we were talking, we'd won the Cup Winners' Cup at Palmer. So we just come off a win, and then all of a sudden, a couple of seasons, we're just on the way down. But he steadied the ship, Rio. Let's face it, he did. But I think
he did, yeah.
For a number of reasons, the board didn't fancy that he'd take us onto bigger things. So they made that decision.
Yeah. He got us into Europe, I suppose, didn't he? He did that.
Got us into Europe, and he made us go. We were 12th to 5th.
Yeah.
All right, the FA Cup never helped us. We got the third round. Yeah, we couldn't pass the third round again. But interesting times in our history. And I'll tell you what you say about Highbury, the feelings you had for it and all that, is the same as me. We're very, very similar on that. And to a lot of fans. And that's the reason I love talking about it. I do with different people, just love talking about it. It's such a great
and that's a good thing, the people you met there, people you used to look as your friends or your mates, because you used to go there, you used to sit with the same people every week, especially if you had season ticket and that, like we did. You went there, you sat down, you met the people.
I've done it again. What's happened there, Steve? I touched something I shouldn't have done. Steve, come back. Getting back on, hold on. It kicks in again. Here he is, he's back in. That's me, Steve. That was me. Sorry. That was me. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, mate, like the people there, absolutely amazing people. I mean, just before we go, just quickly, there was a time when I went to Arsenal and I went with my son and we didn't have we forgot our season tickets. Yeah, it was about 2 games before the end of the Invincible season, 2 games to go. We got no tickets. We left them at home. I went to the turnstile, said, "Look, me boy's crying here. Can you any chance you let me in? I'm here every week." He said, "Where do you sit?" He went up. About 5 people came down who I know sort of sporadically, just sit round me. They come down. Said, "Yeah, he sits with us every week. That's Steve, and that's his boy Sam." And the guy said, "Oh yeah, go on then. Off you go. Go in." Great
Massive
people.
Difference, Steve. That would never happen now.
No, I didn't have a ticket.
You'd have to, that would never happen now. I don't think, really.
No.
Nothing's at face value anymore. There's trust has gone. It's very corporate. That's a shame. I know they've got to do their job because it's all computerized. But I lost my season tickets this season, and I had to get paper tickets. And it was the first time and we played 2 home matches next to each other. The first one on the day, I realised I lost it. I lost it en route. And I got paper tickets. So I phoned up Arsenal and got through and everything was, blah, 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 right. And obviously I ain't going to get it for another 10 days, they said. And we played a few days later at home again. So I went on the queued up and said, can I have some paper? And I had to go through a whole rigmarole. You think I was trying to rob a bank, right? And yet at the end of the day, I got let in because I actually showed them an email I got about something from the Arsenal, about my ticket. And the guy goes, "Oh, that's me."
Yeah.
I said, right. So, and then he went to get his manager, and they gave me the paper tickets. Because at first, you know, we don't do paper tickets. I went, I think you do. I got one the last home game. But listen,
yeah.
That's the only thing I can complain about at the moment. Arsenal as you said, puts a smile on their face. Rightly so.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Listen, Steve, thanks for coming on. It's been a
It's
long
been a pleasure.
time. It's been too long, so we've got to sort that out at some stage. We'll sort it out
Definitely,
tonight. We'll sort it out again.
Yeah.
Keep well. Thanks very much. And hopefully be seeing you not in a not too distant future, yeah?
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you again, mate, and we can meet up. Definitely.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
But it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks for asking us on, and yeah, there's nothing better. I haven't sat and spoke about Highbury for a long while. It's all in Emirates, and you know we're in this new era of football now. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, mate, and and it's great. It's great talking about the old place. Brilliant.
Yeah, thanks a lot. As I say, we'll meet up soon. Thanks, Steve. All the best. Bye.
Cheers, Mel.